He used to wake up before sunrise, help his father sell tea at a train station, and then rush to school with barely a full stomach. No one could imagine that this quiet boy, born in a small Indian town, would one day become one of the most powerful leaders in the world. His name is Narendra Modi, and this is the true story of how a poor child with no money, no connections, and no famous family rose to lead over 1 billion people. This is not just a story of politics. It's a story of willpower, dreams, and never giving up. And if you're learning English today, this story will help you in 2 ways. You will learn about one of the most important leaders in modern history, and you will practice your English by listening and reading an inspiring journey told in clear, easy language. Are you ready? Then let's begin the incredible journey of Narendra Modi, a man who transformed India and inspired millions with his voice, vision, and determination. Welcome, dear friends, to English Avenue, the place where stories help you learn and grow. Today, we dive into the life of a man who went from serving tea on railway platforms to delivering speeches at the United Nations. His name is Narendra Modi, and his story is filled with hard work, transformation, and leadership. Modi's journey is more than just history. It's about how belief and persistence can change your life. It's about rising from nothing, about becoming someone through discipline and courage. And while you listen to this story, you will also improve your English listening, speaking, and vocabulary. So take notes, repeat key phrases, and follow every chapter closely. If you believe that language can change your future, then this video is for you. And if you're ready to improve your English while being inspired, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon. New stories arrive every week to help you grow your skills and your spirit. Now, let's travel back in time, to the dusty streets of Gujarat, India, where a child was born into poverty but destined for greatness. His life would become one of the most powerful examples that no dream is too big and no background too small. Narendra Modi was born on September 17, 1950, in a small town called Vadnagar, in the western Indian state of Gujarat. His family lived in a tiny house made of mud walls and simple floors. They had no car, no refrigerator, and no television. Life was hard, but they made the most of what they had. His father, Damodar Modi, ran a tea stall near the local train station, and little Narendra often helped him before school, serving tea to passengers. He was the third of 6 children, and the family struggled to make ends meet. They lived modestly, often without enough money for new clothes or toys. But what they lacked in wealth, they made up for with strong values. Modi learned the meaning of discipline and responsibility at a young age. He woke up early, helped at the tea stall, went to school, and studied at night by the dim light of an oil lamp. He wasn't a top student, but he was curious and observant. He watched people closely and listened more than he spoke. While other children played outside, young Narendra would sometimes sit silently, watching the sky, imagining what the world was like beyond his small town. His mother, Hirabin Modi, often told him, "You may be poor, but your dreams should be rich." These words stayed with him forever. As a boy, he was deeply influenced by the stories of India's freedom fighters. He read about Mahatma Gandhi and Swami Vivekananda and dreamed of doing something great for his country. Even though his world was small, his dreams were not. He believed that life was not just about surviving, it was about serving. This simple but powerful idea would shape everything he did in the future. At the age of 8, Modi joined a local organization called the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, or RSS. It was here that he learned the importance of discipline, nationalism, and service to society. While most boys his age were busy playing games, he was attending morning drills, listening to talks on Indian culture, and helping with community service. Slowly, something inside him began to change. He was no longer just a tea seller's son. He was becoming a student of life, of leadership, and of purpose. His early life was far from easy. There were days when the family had to borrow food, and times when he wore the same clothes for weeks. But he never complained. He believed that struggle was not something to hide from, it was something to grow from. While others saw obstacles, Modi saw opportunity. And that mindset would take him farther than he ever imagined. This chapter of his life reminds us all that no matter where you come from, your dreams are still valid. You don't need money or fame to start. You only need determination, discipline, and the courage to keep moving forward, just like Narendra Modi did. As Narendra Modi entered his teenage years, the world around him began to grow bigger. The streets of Vadnagar were still familiar, but his thoughts started to reach far beyond them. He was no longer just helping at his father's tea stall or attending school. Something inside him was changing, a desire to understand life on a deeper level, to ask questions that others didn't dare to ask. While his friends talked about cricket or movies, Modi often reflected on India's history, culture, and spiritual teachings. He read whatever he could get his hands on. Books about ancient Indian thinkers, modern political leaders, and spiritual masters filled his small world with big ideas. He became fascinated with Swami Vivekananda, a spiritual leader who spoke about self-discipline, strength, and service to humanity. Modi felt a strong connection to those teachings. He wanted to find his purpose, to discover how he could serve a higher cause. During this period, a major decision shaped his life. He left home. He didn't run away in anger or fear. He left because he wanted to explore India, to experience its diversity, its challenges, and its soul. For nearly 2 years, Modi traveled across the country, mostly alone. He visited places like the Himalayas, the Ramakrishna Mission in West Bengal, and ashrams in Gujarat. These were not tourist visits. He stayed with monks, listened to spiritual discourses, and spent long hours in silence, trying to understand the meaning of life and his place in it. He didn't have much money. Sometimes he slept at train stations or in temples. He ate simple food or fasted when nothing was available. But these years were not wasted. In fact, they were some of the most important in his life. They taught him to live with little, to observe deeply, and to listen, not just to people, but to the world around him. These silent years helped him find clarity. He began to realize that true strength comes not from comfort, but from sacrifice. When he returned to Gujarat, he was not the same boy who had left. He was more confident, more focused, and more determined. He didn't go back to selling tea. Instead, he gave his full time to the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. He became a full-time volunteer, or prakarak, dedicating his life to service, discipline, and spreading the values he had come to believe in. His early years with the RSS were not glamorous. He cooked meals, cleaned floors, arranged events, and traveled from town to town on a bicycle. But he did it all with pride and purpose. He never complained. He believed that every task, no matter how small, was important if it helped build the nation. Modi was starting to be noticed. His ability to organize people, manage events, and give clear speeches impressed the senior leaders. He had a calm voice, but when he spoke, people listened. He didn't talk like a politician. He talked like someone who cared. Slowly, but surely, his path was becoming clearer. Politics was not his goal, but leadership was beginning to call him. And as the years passed, the boy from Vadnagar, who once watched trains roll by as he served tea, was now preparing to board a very different train, the journey into national politics. His life was no longer just about survival. It was about creating change. And this was only the beginning. By the late 1970s, Narendra Modi had already dedicated his life to service. He was no longer the boy wandering through India, searching for answers. He had returned with clarity, focus, and a growing sense of purpose. His years in the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh had trained him well, not in politics, but in people, discipline, and strategy. He had learned how to organize, how to listen, and how to lead from the ground up. At that time, India was going through a period of great political and social unrest. The country had just experienced the emergency, a time when civil liberties were suspended and political opposition was silenced. People were looking for strong, fresh voices. The Bharatiya Janata Party, or BJP, had just been born out of this political climate, and it needed new leaders with energy, integrity, and commitment. Modi fit the profile perfectly. Although he had no formal training in politics, Modi quickly became a key figure behind the scenes. He was not yet speaking on big stages, but he was building networks, solving problems, and developing campaign strategies. He stayed out of the spotlight, but his work spoke loudly. People began to notice that whenever Modi was involved, things ran smoothly. Events were organized better. Communication was clearer. Volunteers were more motivated. He had a unique talent. He could combine traditional values with modern thinking. He respected India's cultural roots but also understood the power of new technology and efficient planning. This ability made him valuable to the party, especially in Gujarat. His work ethic was unmatched. He could work for hours without rest, travel to distant towns with no complaint, and stay up late into the night planning the next day's activities. His rise in the party was not fast, but it was steady. Unlike many politicians, he didn't come from a political family. He had no money, no special background, no media support. But he had something stronger: trust. His colleagues trusted him because he delivered results. He didn't just talk. He acted. As he climbed the ranks of the BJP, Modi was sent to different parts of India to manage election campaigns. He worked in Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, and even in New Delhi, helping to build the party's image and organize grassroots support. He earned a reputation as a master strategist, someone who could read the mood of the people and design campaigns that spoke directly to them. Still, he remained simple in his lifestyle. He lived in small rooms, ate plain food, and continued to live like a monk. He never married and had no children. His life was fully dedicated to his mission. Politics, for him, was not about power. It was about nation building. He saw it as a path to create change, to give voice to the forgotten, and to make India stronger from its roots. In 2001, an unexpected opportunity changed everything. The sitting Chief Minister of Gujarat had to resign, and the party was looking for a strong leader to take charge. Many were surprised when Modi's name was proposed. He had never held a government position. He had never run for office. But those who knew him weren't surprised. They had seen his dedication, his vision, and his ability to lead under pressure. And so, in October 2001, Narendra Modi became the Chief Minister of Gujarat. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one that would not only change his life, but the future of Indian politics. From that moment on, the tea seller from Vadnagar was no longer behind the scenes. He was now on the main stage. And the entire country was about to take notice. When Narendra Modi took office as Chief Minister of Gujarat in 2001, he stepped into a state that was facing serious challenges. There had been a massive earthquake earlier that year in the Kutch region, which had destroyed homes, taken lives, and left communities broken. The people were still mourning, and the economy was struggling. Gujarat needed leadership, someone who could act quickly, think clearly, and rebuild with strength. Modi was not a traditional politician. He had no experience running a government, and many doubted whether he was ready for the role. But he proved something very important: leadership is not about titles, it's about taking responsibility. From his very first day, he focused on action. He traveled across the state, met with victims, listened to business leaders, and pushed government officials to speed up recovery efforts. He introduced strong policies to improve roads, electricity, and water supply. Under his leadership, Gujarat became known for its rapid infrastructure development. He encouraged industries to invest in the state, and soon, global companies were setting up factories in Gujarat. Job opportunities grew, and the state's economy began to rise. Modi promoted events like the vibrant Gujarat Summit, where international business leaders came to see what Gujarat had to offer. He gave the image of a leader who meant business, who was modern, yet rooted in Indian values. But his time in Gujarat was not without controversy. In 2002, a tragic and violent event took place. After a train carrying Hindu pilgrims was attacked, riots broke out across the state. Hundreds of people, mostly from the Muslim community, lost their lives in the violence that followed. Modi was accused by some of not doing enough to stop the riots. It became a defining moment in his political career, drawing criticism both in India and internationally. Investigations went on for years. Modi faced legal and public scrutiny, and the topic divided the nation. In the end, India's Supreme Court and special investigation teams found no evidence that he was directly involved or responsible. Supporters said it was a campaign to discredit him, while critics remained unconvinced. But through it all, Modi stayed focused on development and refused to step down. In the years that followed, he won election after election in Gujarat. His focus remained on economic growth, clean governance, and reducing corruption. He made government processes more efficient and pushed digital services long before they became popular across India. He turned Gujarat into a model for other states, a place where investors felt confident and citizens felt heard. Modi's image was evolving. He was no longer seen only as a state leader. People around the country were beginning to notice his speeches, his style, and his bold ideas. Some admired his discipline and his refusal to back down in difficult times. Others debated his policies and questioned his past. But no one could deny one thing: Narendra Modi was becoming a national figure. He had transformed Gujarat's economy, infrastructure, and image. Now, people were asking a new question: could he do the same for the entire country? The boy from Vadnagar had led a state to success. Perhaps now it was time to lead the nation. And in the background, the winds of change were already beginning to blow. By 2013, Narendra Modi was no longer just a successful state leader, he had become a national symbol. His supporters saw him as a man of action, someone who had turned Gujarat into a model of development and governance. The country was watching him, and many were beginning to believe that he could do the same for India. The Bharatiya Janata Party was also searching for a strong face for the upcoming national elections. After long discussions and debates, they chose Modi as their prime ministerial candidate. It was a bold move. Some party members were unsure. Modi still carried the weight of past controversies, and the national stage was much bigger than Gujarat. But Modi accepted the challenge with confidence. He was ready. Years of discipline, service, and leadership had prepared him for this moment. He began traveling across the country, speaking at massive rallies, addressing issues like unemployment, corruption, inflation, and weak infrastructure. His message was simple but powerful: development for all, governance for all, and dignity for all. His speeches connected with everyday people. He didn't speak in complex political language. He spoke like a man of the people, someone who understood their pain and dreams. The slogan he chose became famous across the nation: "Ek din ain wale hain, good days are coming." It was more than a promise. It became a hope, especially for young people, small business owners, and farmers who felt left behind. He promised to create jobs, build a digital India, support entrepreneurship, and end corruption at the highest levels. Modi used modern tools like social media to reach people directly. He gave interviews, shared videos, and even interacted live with citizens through digital platforms. No Indian leader had used technology this way before. His campaign became a movement. People began to see him not just as a politician, but as a leader of change. In May 2014, the results came in. The BJP won a historic majority in the Indian Parliament. It was the first time in 3 decades that a single party had won with such clear numbers. Modi had not only won, he had redefined Indian politics. The people had chosen a man from humble beginnings over elite families and traditional powers. For the first time in India's history, a tea seller's son had become the prime minister. His victory speech was emotional and direct. He thanked the people of India for their trust and promised to work for every citizen, regardless of who they had voted for. He said, "I will not rest until I have fulfilled my promise to the nation." And he meant it. As he took the oath of office, millions watched. Hope was in the air. India was ready for change, and Narendra Modi was ready to lead. His story had reached the national stage, but in truth, it was only just beginning. When Narendra Modi entered the office of Prime Minister in 2014, the expectations were sky high. People hoped he would bring the same speed and success to India that he had shown in Gujarat. Modi knew that leading a nation was far more complex than running a state, but he also believed that bold decisions could bring big results. From the very beginning, he focused on one clear idea: development. One of his first major initiatives was Swachh Bharat, or Clean India. He asked people to stop littering and start taking responsibility for their surroundings. It wasn't just about building toilets or cleaning streets, it was about changing habits and attitudes. He picked up a broom himself to send a strong message: no job is too small when it's for the good of the country. Then came Jan Dhan Yojana, a financial inclusion program that aimed to give every Indian a bank account. Millions who had never used a bank were suddenly connected to the formal economy. For the first time, a farmer in a remote village could receive government support directly, without middlemen. It was a huge step toward transparency and empowerment. Modi also launched Make in India, a campaign to encourage businesses, both Indian and foreign, to manufacture in the country. His message to the world was clear: India is open for business. The campaign brought attention, investment, and jobs, especially in the industrial and technology sectors. It positioned India as a global economic player. Another big push was Digital India. Modi wanted to bring internet access to villages, digitize government services, and make everything faster and more efficient. He believed that with technology, India's young population could leap forward, even if the country had missed earlier industrial revolutions. Schools, hospitals, and rural areas began to see more digital infrastructure than ever before. But not all of his moves were welcomed by everyone. In 2016, he made one of the most dramatic decisions in India's economic history. On a national address, he announced that high-value currency notes, the 500 and 1,000 rupee bills, would no longer be valid. This move, known as demonetization, aimed to attack black money, fake currency, and corruption. The reaction was immediate and intense. Long lines formed outside banks. Small businesses suffered. Some people praised the boldness of the step, calling it a strike against corruption. Others criticized the lack of preparation and the pain it caused the common man. Economists debated its impact for years. Modi remained firm, saying, "This is a fight against dishonesty." During this term, India also saw major foreign policy changes. Modi visited more than 50 countries, strengthening relations with powerful nations like the United States, Japan, and Israel. His style was personal, hugging leaders, addressing large crowds of Indian communities abroad, and speaking with confidence. He wanted the world to see India not just as a market, but as a leader. At home, he continued to push for efficiency. He introduced the Goods and Services Tax, known as GST, to simplify India's complex tax system. While it had a few bumps in the beginning, the reform was seen as an important step toward building a unified national market. By the end of his first term, India's global image had changed. It was now seen as a country with vision and strength. Modi had delivered both hope and controversy. Some admired his courage, while others questioned his speed. But everyone agreed on one thing: he was not afraid to take risks. As the 2019 elections approached, the question on everyone's mind was, would the people give him 5 more years? The answer would come soon, and it would speak louder than anyone expected. In May 2019, the results of the general elections were announced, and Narendra Modi had achieved what many thought was impossible. He was re-elected as Prime Minister with an even bigger majority than before. The people had spoken loudly. They wanted 5 more years of his leadership. His victory was seen as proof that his vision and policies had connected deeply with the nation. But with great power came even greater challenges. Modi wasted no time. One of the most historic decisions of his second term came in August 2019, when his government removed Article 370 from the Indian Constitution. This special provision had given the region of Jammu and Kashmir a unique status for decades. By revoking it, Modi's government fully integrated Kashmir into India, arguing that it would lead to more development and stability in the region. Supporters praised it as a bold and long overdue step, while critics argued that it ignored the voices of local Kashmiris. International reactions were mixed, but Modi stood firm, calling it a move for the nation's unity. Another major decision came later that year, the Citizenship Amendment Act, or CAA. This law aimed to provide Indian citizenship to persecuted minorities from neighboring countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan. However, it excluded Muslim refugees, leading to protests and debates across the country. Many saw it as a humanitarian effort, while others feared it could be discriminatory. Streets filled with demonstrations, and discussions about India's identity and inclusivity intensified. Modi remained confident that history would judge the move fairly. Then came an event that no leader could have fully prepared for: the COVID-19 pandemic. In early 2020, the virus spread across the world, bringing economies to a halt and testing the strength of governments everywhere. Modi took swift action, announcing one of the world's strictest lockdowns. Millions of Indians stayed indoors as businesses shut down and cities fell silent. It was a time of fear and uncertainty, but also of resilience. Modi appealed to the people's spirit, asking them to light candles and clap for healthcare workers. He launched massive vaccination campaigns, helping India produce and distribute vaccines not just for its own people but for other nations as well. During this period, India faced economic slowdowns and heartbreaking losses, but it also witnessed moments of unity and recovery. Modi's government pushed for reforms to revive the economy, support local businesses, and encourage self-reliance. The Atmanirbhar Bharat campaign, or Self-Reliant India, became his new focus. He wanted India to reduce dependence on foreign goods and become a global manufacturing powerhouse. Meanwhile, Modi's influence on the world stage continued to grow. He strengthened ties with the United States, forming key agreements on defense, trade, and technology. He deepened relations with countries in Europe, the Middle East, and the Indo-Pacific, positioning India as a critical player in global politics. His ability to connect with world leaders, whether through strong negotiations or warm personal gestures, helped India gain a stronger international voice. But not everything was smooth. At home, protests erupted over new agricultural laws introduced by his government. Farmers, especially from Punjab and Haryana, feared that the laws would weaken their traditional protections. The protests became one of the longest in India's history, forcing the government to eventually withdraw the laws. It was a rare retreat for Modi, but one that showed the power of democratic debate in India. As his second term progressed, his leadership continued to inspire both admiration and criticism. Supporters saw him as a transformative leader, a man who took bold decisions without fear. Critics argued that his leadership style was too centralized, that institutions needed more balance. But one thing was certain: Narendra Modi had left a deep mark on India's political and social landscape. With the next elections approaching, one question remained: after 2 historic terms, would the people choose him once again? The answer was yet to come, but his journey had already secured him a place in history. Beyond the politics, beyond the speeches and policies, Narendra Modi remains a man of deep discipline, routine, and simplicity. Unlike many world leaders who enjoy luxurious lifestyles, Modi has always maintained a life of minimalism. He does not own extravagant homes or personal wealth, and even as Prime Minister, he has continued living with the habits he built in his younger years. His day starts early, often before sunrise. He begins with yoga and meditation, a practice that has remained a part of his life for decades. He believes in the power of the mind, of staying focused and physically active. Even during the busiest times, he never skips his routine, no matter where he is in the world. His energy, even at his age, continues to surprise those around him. One of the key aspects of Modi's leadership is his ability to communicate directly with people. He does not rely only on press conferences or formal speeches. Instead, he uses platforms like Man Ki Baat, a radio program where he speaks to the nation informally, addressing common citizens, farmers, students, and entrepreneurs. His mastery of social media has also set him apart from previous Indian leaders. He connects with millions through Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, often sharing personal moments, festival greetings, or messages of encouragement. Despite being one of the most powerful leaders in the world, Modi has always maintained a connection to his roots. He frequently speaks about his childhood in Vadnagar, about selling tea with his father, about the struggles that shaped his perspective on governance. Even today, when he visits his hometown, he meets old friends, teachers, and neighbors with the same warmth and respect he showed before entering politics. His dressing style is also unique. His traditional kurta and half jacket have become his signature look, blending simplicity with authority. Unlike many leaders who rely on professional stylists, Modi personally selects his attire, often showcasing Indian fabrics and craftsmanship. This is not just about fashion, it is a statement, a way of promoting Indian culture on the global stage. When it comes to food, he follows a strict vegetarian diet. He avoids rich or heavy meals and prefers light, home-cooked food. Even on international trips, he ensures that his meals align with his disciplined lifestyle. His love for herbal tea, fresh fruits, and traditional Indian dishes reflects his philosophy of moderation in all aspects of life. One of the lesser-known aspects of Modi's personality is his love for writing and poetry. In his free time, he writes poetry in Gujarati, expressing his thoughts on nature, spirituality, and life. He has also authored books on leadership, youth empowerment, and governance. His words reflect not just a politician's mind, but the heart of a thinker who sees the world beyond politics. But perhaps the most defining feature of Modi's personal life is his complete devotion to his work. He never married, has no children, and has dedicated his entire existence to public service. His family remains in Gujarat, living ordinary lives, away from the power and influence of politics. Unlike many political figures, he has never promoted his relatives for government positions or business success. His belief is simple: his only family is the people of India. Through all the victories, criticisms, and challenges, Modi remains unchanged in his core principles. He believes in hard work, in never giving up, in pushing forward no matter the obstacles. Whether one supports his politics or not, there is no denying that his journey from a small-town tea seller to the Prime Minister of the world's largest democracy is nothing short of extraordinary. As the years pass, one question remains: how will history remember him? As a bold reformer, as a controversial leader, or as a visionary who reshaped India? The answer will come with time, but one thing is certain: his story is far from over. No leader reaches the heights of power without facing criticism, and Narendra Modi is no exception. While his supporters see him as a visionary reformer, his critics argue that his leadership has been marked by controversy, polarization, and an increasingly centralized style of governance. His tenure has been filled with both admiration and opposition, with debates about democracy, economy, and freedom of expression becoming more intense over time. One of the most debated aspects of Modi's leadership is his handling of religious and social issues. Critics argue that under his rule, India has seen a rise in religious tensions, with some minorities feeling marginalized. His government's policies, such as the Citizenship Amendment Act and the National Register of Citizens, sparked widespread protests, with many fearing that they could create divisions in society. Modi, however, has consistently maintained that his vision is one of inclusivity, national unity, and prioritizing India's long-term stability. Another area of criticism is press freedom. Some journalists and media organizations claim that the space for dissent and independent reporting has shrunk under Modi's leadership. Reports from international organizations have suggested that India's press freedom rankings have declined, with concerns over increased government influence in media narratives. His supporters argue that the media landscape remains diverse and active, but the debate over free speech versus national interest continues. Economically, Modi's policies have brought both progress and setbacks. His ambitious reforms, such as demonetization and the introduction of the goods and services tax, were aimed at curbing corruption and simplifying the financial system. However, some analysts believe these moves caused disruptions, particularly for small businesses and daily wage workers. His government has also faced challenges in creating enough jobs to match India's rapidly growing workforce. Yet, on a global scale, India's economy has continued to expand, with major investments and industrial growth signaling long-term potential. Perhaps one of the biggest challenges during his tenure was the farmer protests of 2020 to 2021. When Modi's government introduced new agricultural laws aimed at modernizing the sector, farmers, especially from Punjab and Haryana, feared that the reforms would favor large corporations over small farmers. For months, they protested in massive numbers, camping outside Delhi and demanding the laws be repealed. The government initially defended the reforms, stating they would benefit farmers in the long run, but after nearly a year of demonstrations, Modi made a rare political retreat, announcing that the laws would be withdrawn. It was a moment that proved both his resilience and the power of democratic movements in India. On the international stage, Modi has strengthened India's presence like never before. He has formed strategic partnerships, negotiated trade deals, and positioned India as a major player in global politics. However, relations with neighboring countries like China and Pakistan have remained tense. The border clashes with China in 2020, which led to the deaths of Indian soldiers, tested his leadership in matters of national security. While his government responded with strong military and economic measures, the geopolitical situation remains complex. Through all these challenges, one thing remains clear: Modi is not a leader who backs down easily. He faces criticism head-on, often using adversity to fuel his drive for stronger governance. His ability to navigate both domestic and international crises has shaped his image as a leader who thrives under pressure. As India continues to evolve under his leadership, the debate over his legacy grows. Will he be remembered as a transformative leader who modernized India, or as a figure who left behind a divided nation? The answer may depend on perspective, but one thing is undeniable: his impact on India is permanent. As Narendra Modi moves through the later years of his second term, the question of legacy grows louder. What will the future say about the man who began his life selling tea at a railway station and rose to become the Prime Minister of the world's largest democracy? Will he be seen as a reformer who reshaped India's destiny, or as a controversial figure whose decisions stirred strong emotions across the country? One thing is certain: Modi's leadership has left a deep mark on almost every part of Indian society. His push for development, digital transformation, infrastructure, and national pride has brought India closer to becoming a global economic power. Cities have seen new roads, modern airports, and cleaner railway stations. Villages have received electricity, internet access, and better sanitation. Under his leadership, India sent spacecraft to the Moon and Mars, proving its strength in science and innovation. He has redefined the role of a prime minister, choosing to be visible, vocal, and deeply involved in public life. Whether it's addressing the nation during crises or launching massive nationwide campaigns, Modi's leadership style has always been hands-on. He speaks directly to the people, often using simple language that resonates with families, workers, and students. His idea of a new India includes not only modern technology and smart cities but also a return to cultural pride. He has often spoken about India's ancient wisdom, its spiritual roots, and its long history of resilience. Temples have been restored, yoga has been promoted globally, and national symbols have been emphasized with new strength. For some, this has brought pride and a sense of identity. For others, it has raised questions about the balance between tradition and progress. Economically, his dream is to make India a $5 trillion economy. His focus on self-reliance through Atmanirbhar Bharat is part of this vision. By encouraging domestic production, digital payments, and small business innovation, he hopes to make India not just a market for the world, but also a workshop for the world. Socially, his government has launched several programs aimed at empowering the poor and marginalized. Free cooking gas connections, rural housing schemes, low-cost healthcare plans, and direct benefit transfers have brought relief to millions. However, the scale of India's population means that many challenges remain, and the journey toward full equality and opportunity for all is far from over. On the international front, Modi's legacy is already being written. He has transformed India's global image from that of a developing nation to a confident power with a seat at major international tables. From addressing huge crowds of Indian diaspora in the U.S. to forging deep ties with countries in Asia, Africa, and the Middle East, his foreign policy approach has made India more visible and respected worldwide. But legacy is not built only on achievements. It also includes how a leader is remembered by people, by the way they felt under his rule, the hope they carried, or the fear they faced. For many Indians, Modi represents confidence, pride, and strength. For others, he symbolizes division and a more aggressive form of nationalism. Like all powerful leaders, his story is not simple, it is layered, complex, and constantly evolving. As India looks toward the future, one truth remains: Narendra Modi has forever changed the nature of leadership in India. He has shown that background is no barrier to greatness, that determination can overcome even the deepest challenges, and that a single person can reimagine the direction of a nation. His legacy is still being written, not only in history books, but in the minds of the people. And whether you agree with him or not, the story of Narendra Modi is one that has already shaped the soul of a rising India. Narendra Modi's journey from a small-town boy to the Prime Minister of India is more than just a political success story. It is a reminder that no dream is too big, no background too small, and no obstacle too great. His life teaches us that discipline, hard work, and relentless focus can turn the impossible into reality. But this story is not just about him. It is about you. You may have faced struggles. You may have been told that your dreams are too ambitious, that you don't have the right connections, the right education, or the right circumstances. But history has shown, time and time again, that success is not given, it is earned. Narendra Modi was not born into power. He was not handed success on a silver platter. He built himself from the ground up, and so can you. Whether your goal is to start a business, master a new skill, or become a leader in your own way, the path forward requires the same key elements: persistence, learning, and belief in yourself. The road will not always be easy. There will be setbacks, failures, and moments of doubt. But as Modi's story proves, the only way to fail is to stop trying. So what is your dream? What impact do you want to make on the world? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And perhaps today, as you listen to this story, that step begins now. If this story inspired you, let us know in the comments below. What was the most powerful lesson you learned? What part of Narendra Modi's journey surprised you the most? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you can keep learning English through powerful real-life stories. Every week, we bring you new content that will not only improve your English skills but also fill you with knowledge and inspiration. And remember, your future is in your hands. Go out there and write your own story.